So one of the really great things, we got Mark Pipher
That's correct, yep.
from FacilityConneX.
That's correct, yep.
So one of the great things about doing these interviews is we've never met before, have we? For our audience out there, this is a completely unscripted interview. So let's start off with, what do you guys do?
So FacilityConneX is just a monitoring-based commissioning system. It's basically using fault detection, cloud-based technology to really drive home what is happening inside a building or the piece of equipment that is serving the building.
How did you get started in the industry? Tell us a little bit about your background and then move us forward.
Sure. My background is really in controls, and I worked for GE for over 8 years. Really focused on new technology, new products in mobile and advanced analytics and streaming technology. I joined the FacilityConneX team about 4 years ago, right. And we've been flying high ever since.
So what do you love about FacilityX? I mean, Connex. I mean, because you've been in the business before. Why these guys?
Well, FacilityConneX is really driven to the customer experience. We call it the FCX experience, believe it or not. And what we do there is we use real live experts that understand equipment, understand how equipment's supposed to behave, and we basically use the data that serves up through the analytics and complement it with a real human being. And what happens is, by doing that, our commissioning side of the picture, where you basically improving the equipment itself, you're really driving home the fact that this is the steps, this is the priorities to really go and save energy, prevent conditions and reliability on those equipment, and most importantly, getting comfort for the users in that facility.
Well, that's good stuff. You know, we've been hearing a lot about business cases, use cases. Tell us about one of your favorite projects where you really moved the needle and you really came forth with some great stuff.
Yeah, so that's actually an easy one, because there's a few customers where we basically have walked in, connected to their environment, got the data up, plugged in those analytics, and turned around and actually saved them hundreds of thousands of dollars in the first week. And when you do something like that, it's just, I'm the one who gets on the phone, takes credit for it.
Nice.
So that's what we love to do, and that's what FacilityConneX do. There's some projects that are harder to get that money back, but the ones that really return that investment in less than a week, it's just huge.
So,
go ahead.
I want to again focus. So you're primarily working in the MUSH markets, the municipalities, universities, schools, and hospitals?
We tend to spend most of our time in market segments that are a little higher, in the sense of definitely the hospitals or bigger type buildings in the 200,000 square foot range and higher. These are instrumented buildings, ones that we can get the data from, that really make sense and drive home real estate.
Mark, when you come across a project like the one you mentioned, where you save them $200,000 in the first month, I mean, what is it that they don't know that your system then is able to?
Yeah, it's simple. I mean, typical buildings have a BMS system where the engineer, the facility guy, has to actually dive deep and look at the data himself to understand what's going on. When an analytic does it, it's diving deep like the human being and basically pushing the information right in front of that facilities guys with the actual cause. And it takes time. These guys are busy all the time. They're always doing something, taking care of the firefights that are going on. They don't have time to sit back, look at the data for hours. These analytics do it in seconds.
Wow.
Right?
So you use some sort of artificial intelligence with that, or is that part of what goes on?
Absolutely. It's all about learning, letting the algorithm learn over time.
Self-learning algorithm, yeah.
And train itself to the design of the equipment, what's happening in the environment around it as well.
Very cool.
So did you take this algorithm, was this something that you conceived, or did you take it from another industry, or did you create it yourself?
No, well, we came from an industrial background.
Right.
So we had a lot of knowledge and data science knowledge at building algorithms for purpose.
Right.
We basically took that and made it into more off the shelf.
Right.
And made those algorithms useful for equipment like in typical buildings and facilities.
Cool. So imagine that somebody sees this video, they're out there going, man, I wonder whether I'm spending too much money or not on my utilities. How do they engage your company? Walk us through the process. I mean, they email, they call, and what happens next?
Yeah, so typically what happens is a customer calls us up, and more than likely they have a BMS system, and we put them through a little bit of a qualification, right?
Sure.
We want to understand whether they have commitment and data coming in that makes sense, right? And so sometimes we get a sample of the data before we get started. Other times we just have a conversation and understand the different types of equipment that they have and what they want to do. Once that happens, we tend to talk more about connecting to the systems, and then more importantly, we talk about how the system is running today. That helps us configure the analytics so that they don't give them false positives.
Now, can you do
Simple
most
process.
of this remotely, or do you have to go into the field and put the meters and different things on?
Everything is done through software and done remote. We have clients all over the world, places like Dubai, and we do them from Boston, Massachusetts.
So you're global then?
What's that?
You guys are global then?
Oh yeah, no, we are all over the world.
Nice.
Europe, South Korea. We have sites in Dubai, Middle East, Saudi Arabia, so we're all over. Yep.
Great.
So sort of walk us through a typical week for you. I mean, because obviously it's an exciting company. I mean, you can tell you're jazzed about what you guys do. What do you do?
So I'm the general manager, so I get to do everything.
Yeah, okay.
A little bit of everything.
And sometimes nothing. So, but really what boils down to my week is really engaging with customers. I spend most of my time talking with our customers, understanding what we're doing, what we do best, and more importantly, I'm out there convincing customers to come our way.
Nice.
So,
And go ahead.
Well, no, I just it sounds remarkable, and to think you could save a couple $100,000 in 1 or 2 weeks. What was I know Eric had premised the question, but what exactly did you change or alter that could result in such an extraordinary savings?
yeah, so I'll give you it's probably better to give a specific example, which is, a lot of times air handling units, especially when you have like a hospital that has might have more than 50 units that are serving a hospital area.
Sure.
A lot of those units tend to have coils that start to leak. Well, unless you go and inspect that unit on the roof, you're not going to really find it, and sometimes you need to use infrared sensors to do that. Our software actually can detect a leak happening in those
I see.
coils
Yeah, that
without
makes sense.
touching the unit whatsoever.
I can see the savings there, yes.
Yeah, so if you have several of those going on, it's happening for 30 days or 12 months, it adds up really quickly.
That's pretty cool.
Another good example, just to give you another one, in operating rooms and in labs and universities, air optimization is really crucial for environmental health and safety.
Sure.
We have analytics that watch that. Most people overturn the air, and if they could reduce that turning effect, you save hundreds of thousands of dollars right off the bat.
Well, we're big believers. Our first show we came to was, I think, 8 years ago, and there was a gentleman from a huge company that he was in charge of all their facilities. And, he stated the fact that they never got any complaints at all about people being too hot or too cold. It was the most comfortable campus in the world, right? But their energy bills were high.
Sure.
And I think this goes to what you're talking about. It wasn't until they put the data analytics in that they realized that the reason people were so comfortable and the reason their energy bills were so high was the heating and cooling was running at the same time 24/7. So once they were able to do that, there was a huge savings there. So
Haven't been to a building that doesn't have simultaneous heating and cooling happening.
yeah.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be happening. That's a waste of money right off the bat.
So how do people get hold of you? Well, what's the best way to?
The best way is through our website at www.FacilityConneX.com.
Right.
We have numbers on there that gets right to our salespeople around the world. We have partners around the world that we use as well. So it's pretty easy to contact us and get started.
Very, very cool. Well, now I know our listeners are going to want, because you mentioned you're from Boston, right, Mark?
Yeah.
Okay, so the question I'm sure the community is going to know is Belichick a great coach because of Brady, or is Brady a great quarterback because of Belichick?
That's a tough question, actually, but I do believe it's all about Belichick.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's good to have a good quarterback, but we did get to the playoffs with Castle when Brady hurt his knee.
Yeah.
So
I think it just doesn't matter what you give Belichick; he's going to do a good job with it.
yeah, absolutely.
And we're very sorry about the Bruins. So
Yeah, me too.
the Boston guys, they love their sports. Okay, so then what's next on the horizon? What's your next thrust? You're going to another show, or what do you do to get more business?
So, we're basically building a partner network of more channel development is really what we'll focus our attention this year on. We did a lot more in direct sales because a lot of it was evangelizing and education over the last few years. People now understand monitoring-based commissioning, which is awesome for us because now the conversation is about how to get you to saving that money, right? And that's a lot easier conversation, at least for me, than trying to convince people that the technology is trustworthy. And so our whole push this year is around pushing for partners and channels that we're just going to keep growing from there.
With the channels, and like for instance, a major theme here was master systems integrators. Do you solicit like maybe Niagara partners or different? Do you use the building integrators to access the mush markets?
So some of our partners tend to be the control integrators themselves, like the Niagara and Tritium people. But most of our partners tend to be more the commissioning agents that are out there.
Okay.
And those guys, and they're more smaller and localized, which means it's a little harder to go get them all. But the fact is they have the intelligence already built in. They have a customer base that trusts them on their involvement, and they can actually understand what comes out of the analytics and offer better corrective actions.
Yeah, much more qualified partner. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's super stuff.
This has been awesome for sure. Glad to know about you guys. And again, let's give them the website one more time, Mark. It's FacilityConneX.com.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Very cool.
Hey,
Well,
Mark,
great talking
Thank
to
you.
you.
Nice to meet you guys.
Have a great one.
Thank you.